Do we want to do introductions first? So I am your fearless leader. Officially, I am Dr. Lisa Hoffman, but no one calls me that except my dad when he's trying to be ironic. You can just call me Lisa. It's just like the regular Lisa, but spelled differently. So there's no Z, there's no Lessa. And the story behind the name, according to my mother, is that when I was born, I look like a Lisa, but not the regular kind. So I don't know if that is a true story because that's way more creativity than I would normally expect from her, but that is the story. So it's just Lisa. That's what you can call me. We have two TAs for this class. I see one of them, Nikki. Do you want to unmute yourself and say hello?
Absolutely. Hi, everybody. I'm Nikki Tennyson. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a doctoral student in the Higher Education and Student Affairs program, and I'm excited to be here.
Yes.
Oh, I'm also in the Ed Measurement program. That's why I'm TA for this class.
Yes, Nikki is a PhD student who has decided that she loves quantitative methods so much that she wants an extra degree, so she's picking up a master's degree with us as well, which is an option for all of you that I'm going to plant the seed for today. Nikki is what I would call a volunteer TA, meaning that she is taking this experience for course credit for teaching. She's not being paid actual money. So I am trying to limit the amount of work that she has to do to be proportional to the course credit. So Nikki, like myself, is going to be holding office hours on Zoom on the course website, which I'll show in just a second. The hours and the Zoom link are available there. And do I have my other TA here? Let me see. I'm scanning. If you're here, please say something. Nope. Okay, it doesn't look like he's here. I have another TA. Kuhn is his name, and he is a paid TA, so he's a TA for 10 hours a week. He will also be holding office hours, but they're going to be shared with the 41-43 class because that is a very large class this semester, and so he's going to be holding office hours for both classes jointly. So those are the personnel to be involved. Nikki, if you want to sign out, I will not be offended at all. You've heard my spiel before. But if you want to hang out with us, then of course you're more than welcome to.
I am actually going to take you up on that and head out. It was lovely seeing you all. Lisa will share my contact information, and I will pop in and out occasionally through the semester. So it was great meeting you all.
Thank you. Bye for now. So yes, let me get the screen share started so that you can see what I see. There we go. So we should all be looking at a web page. Can you see that? Good. All right, let me move the thingies out of the way. All right, there we go. So this is our course webpage. This is where everything is. And for those of you who are old enough, you might be looking at this and going, 1997 called and they want their web design back. Fair. That is a fair criticism. But the reason that I do it this way is that everything is on one page, and that makes it very easy to find stuff and very easy for me to keep up with. So the first block here, let me make this a little bit smaller, has all of our contact information and my office hours. So Nikki's office hours, Kuhn's office hours, as well as mine, which are going to be right after class via Zoom. The Zoom link is here, resources of various kinds are here, and then our schedule is down below. So on each of the squares that correspond to the dates is where you're going to find all of the materials for lecture. If there's any additional files to be downloaded in terms of the examples, those will be here as well. And as I mentioned earlier, I am recording. So this class is going to be saved. And the links to where those recordings are will be posted in the same square as the materials. So you'll be able to see what was covered each day in terms of which slides we went through or which pages we went through. And then there'll be a link to the video that corresponds to that day's lecture. And it will also be on YouTube, which is where they are hosted, and a particular playlist for this class that you can sign up to. Hit the or smash the like button and hit subscribe. Is that what the kids say? I think I messed it up. Yeah, I'm not privy to the YouTube vocabulary. My son the other day, he likes to watch videos of people who play video games and narrate what they're doing. Like, this is an entire thing now. And he's really into Nintendo, and he found this person, Zach Scott. I don't know if any of you have heard of him, but apparently he is it in terms of the YouTube. And the other day he said, "Mommy, I want to put a like on him. How do I do that?" So we made sure that we smash that like button and hit subscribe so that we can keep up to date on all the newest Nintendo things. And you can do the same for this class. So I keep everything outside of Icon in terms of the class materials and the videos, so that when this class is over, if you want to come back to this stuff a year later and find something, you can do so. It's not hidden under Icon, which goes away at the end of the semester. And I also have people from around the world who find stuff useful from time to time, and it's easier to send them to the external places than the internal. So that's the way I do it. In terms of what is captured, though, what is captured on YouTube is my screen share, my voice, and if you speak aloud, your voice. None of your pictures are going to be online, and my picture is not online either. So you don't have to worry about that. In terms of communication, even though we're on Zoom, I operate the same way as if this were an in-person class. At any point, feel free to jump in with questions or comments. Don't feel like you will be interrupting me or bothering me or that it would otherwise be a problem. So you can always put your hand up or just unmute yourself and have a question. You can use the chat window. I've got it open and I keep an eye on it throughout the class. And if you're shy, I'll point out that you can direct message me through the chat so that no one else can see your question or your comment but me. And I'm happy to communicate that way as well. And when we are back in person, which I hope to be Thursday, I'll send out an email announcing that for sure, but that's what it looks like right now. Even if you're sitting in person, you can log into Zoom and use the chat window to ask questions or to get a closer version of the screen share if you're like me and you can't see very well from a great distance. So on that note, the classroom that we are in is a special classroom that is equipped with Windows laptops for every single spot. So you do not have to bring any devices if you want to be able to take notes electronically or log into Zoom. However, if you prefer to have your own device, one of the benefits of having laptops all over the place is that we have outlets all over the place. So you can bring your cord, and that way you don't have to rely on your battery. So once we're back in the room, you'll get a chance to see that. So everything will be here. After the schedule table here, we have all the rest of the stuff that's on the syllabus, as well as direct links to all of the other places that we will need to access in terms of software. We'll talk about that as we go, the readings, and the rest of the boilerplate stuff. So everything that you will need is here. All right, am I talking too fast? We're okay so far. I'm really amped up. As I said, I didn't get to teach last semester, and so I'm really excited to be here. Any thoughts or questions you want to share so far? No, we're good? Okay. So one of the benefits I should mention of using YouTube as a way to host the videos is that it does a much better job of transcription than what the Zoom transcription does. So from time to time, people will tell me about funny things that it thinks I say on the transcription. For instance, there's a term that I use, fit statistics, that comes out fish sticks whenever I say it on the Zoom. And YouTube does a better job of that. But one of the other things that's nice about YouTube is that you can search through the transcript that is accompanying the video. Did you know this? I didn't know this until recently. If you open the transcript, so at the bottom of the videos on the lower right-hand corner, there's a little menu thing and you can open transcript and then you can search. So if you know that I talked about something at some point in an hour and 15 minutes, you can find where in the video that item was. So it makes it easier to go back and review whatever you need to. So that's where all the stuff is going to be. To keep myself from rambling too much, I tried to put everything that I wanted to say into slides so that would help me stay organized. So how about we get started with that then? Sound good? Why not, right? We're all here. Make this big. Okay, can you all see this with me? And my giant pink mouse? Yeah, I was tired of not being able to find the mouse on my giant monitor, so I just made it huge. So I'm not going to have this problem anymore. So welcome to this class. First question, why are you here? There's likely two answers to this question. There are some of you that are thinking, this class is required and I just got to get through it. Fair. If that is you, Don't feel bad. There are a lot of people who feel that way, and I'm okay with that. I'm a realist. But I'm not going to lie, I'm going to try to convince you otherwise. The other reason you might be here is, yes, I am so excited to learn about quantitative research methods. Yes, me too. That's why I picked this as my job. So the way that I approach teaching of this kind of material, and despite the title of this class, which honestly is terrible, this is a class about quantitative methods. It's not really about statistics. Statistics is a piece of the puzzle that allows us to do quantitative research. So what we're going to talk about is the combination of quantitative data and application of statistical models and techniques to be able to answer research questions. That is, this is a class about data analysis. That is what I want to train you to be able to do, is to take quantitative research data, have the questions that you had in mind when you either collected the data or found it, and to figure out the optimal way to answer those questions with the data that you have. That is what I want to train you to do. Because otherwise, why would you be here? Right? You're all doing research in PhD programs or master's programs. That's what we need to do. So just to plant the seed as to what else could be out there, if you decide that maybe this wasn't as terrible as you thought it was going to be, here's a little table that I made. So this course is designed for students either in the EMS measurement and stat program or other programs who don't have a lot of background. And so you would need to take this course, maybe one or two others required in your program to meet the requirements. And the end goal of that process would to be a competent consumer. Like if you took one course, I would hope that that would help you read articles and better understand articles that use quantitative methods, but you wouldn't have a lot of skills to work with in terms of data analysis. But if you keep going, so a lot of people in the college come from programs who require more courses than just this one. So 6 or 9 more hours is great in terms of expanding the skills that you have. If you're willing to keep going, you could actually pick up a master's degree. So what Nikki discovered, one of your TAs, is that her program already requires something like 12 or 15 hours worth of coursework in research design and quantitative methods. Why not do a few more classes and pick up an entirely different degree that is a credential that you can put on your CV to help you stand out when it comes time to get a job? If you are interested in going even further than that, there are a lot of job advertisements that I've seen over the last couple of years that are looking for people who fit into a particular content area and who can teach quantitative methods to students in that area. There are a lot of jobs like that. So if you can pick up additional skills, that helps you expand what you could potentially do down the road. So I view this as an opportunity for changing your potential pathway through the world, not just getting through this class to satisfy a requirement. That's my pitch. So what are we doing here? Statistics is applied math, but it's not going to be about the math. We are going to focus on logic and language. So those of you who wrote me and said, I haven't had a math class in 30 years, or I haven't taken a stats class in 10 years, it's going to be okay, because the computers are going to do the math for us. So this class is not going to require you to do hand calculations. Computers are better at it, they're faster, and most of the advanced models that you will eventually learn cannot be done by hand, even if you wanted them to be. So hand calculations, to me, are not helpful as an emphasis. We're also not going to derive formulas, we're not going to do proofs, and I'm not going to expect you to have things memorized. If you want to do proofs and theorems and derivations, Godspeed, head on over to the statistics department or the biostat department and they will hook you up. But that is not what we are here for. We are here for an application to be able to use these things in your research. So all of the things that historically make statistics scary, we're not going to do. That's not what this is about. Okay? I know some of you have a little anxiety. I'm hopeful that it's going to start to come down a little bit. Believe it or not, the hardest thing about learning this type of material, for me still, and everyone, is working memory load. It is the combination of language and logic and hanging on to all of it at the same time to make it fit together like pieces in a puzzle. It is not the math. It is working memory that makes this challenging. Because when I say language, I'm not just talking about words and concepts. I'm talking about language expressed as a series of notation and equations, because that is a formal representation of the ideas that you would need to be able to most accurately and specifically describe what you're doing. And then you have to take those ideas in that formal representation and tell the computer to actually implement it through computer code. That's language. It's all language, it's not math. In terms of logic, it's all about decision guidelines for different scenarios. It's very much if this, then that. Otherwise, if this, then that. It's that kind of thing. And so we will learn to match types of questions, types of data, and ways of implementing them in models, and then trying to estimate the models. So estimate and estimator are words you're going to hear me say a lot. That just means ways of finding the answers. That's what that means at a very general level. So the way to reduce working memory load in this class and in life is through frequent exposure, repetition, and engagement. That helps to build automaticity. You get to the point where the vocabulary is at the top of your head. It makes it a lot easier to take that concept and attach it to something else. So this is one of the main reasons why I teach all of my courses in a twice-a-week format, is because I want people to be able to check in more frequently for shorter amounts of time so that we don't get overwhelmed. And I will warn you that the material that we're going to cover builds cumulatively. So if you decide to check out for a month, it's going to be hard to come back, because everything will seem like a lot when you come back, as opposed to a little this day and a little that day and a little more. So my philosophy, I truly believe that all of you can do this or you wouldn't be here. And more importantly, I believe that all of you can significantly benefit from being here. Quantitative methods is one way to think about the world. And learning new models changes the way that you think about the types of research questions that you can ask and the answers that you would then have. And in terms of who can do this, I truly believe that all of you can. Back in the pre-pandemic times when I used to talk to people, do you remember that? When you used to just like go places and meet people and talk to them and not worry about whether you had a mask on or they had a mask on, or whether you were vaccinated or they were vaccinated. You just talk to people. Whenever people ask me what I do for a living and I tell them I teach statistics, I get one of two answers. The first answer is something like, "Oh my God, I had to take statistics and I hated it. Ugh, how could you pick that as a job?" That's one answer. The other would be a more polite version, but they would usually say something like, "Oh, so you teach the weed out courses." No, absolutely not. There's no weeding to be done here. I'm not a gardener. That's not how we're going to roll. Everyone can do this or you wouldn't be here. Now, it is true that if you've seen this stuff before, if you've seen this stuff more recently, you will pick it up faster and with less effort than somebody for whom all of this is brand new. But that's okay, because we'll all eventually get to the same place. So the way that I have structured the material, to me, a unit is a combination of a lecture and a set of examples. And I have 6 to 7 units planned, hopefully to get through all of those. And I have an acknowledgement here that my slides are indeed wordy. Yes, that is a common criticism on my student evaluations, that I pack too much stuff into my slides. You know what? Sorry, not sorry. The reason that I do that is so you don't have to write everything down. I want you to sit back, listen, and think. That's what I want you to do. So if you're somebody who wants to write everything down, you might want to have a piece of paper or a Word document open or something that allows you to take additional notes without trying to worry about where they fit on the page. As a matter of fact, last time I taught a class like this, I had students who actually were on their treadmills during class. I'm dead serious. I had a couple people who were getting their exercise and their steps in during class because they found that they could sit and listen and they could do two things at once. So I'm fine with that. If you want to sit back and listen, that's why I pack my slides full of stuff so that you don't have to. Now, my slides would look very different if I were giving a professional talk or a job talk or something like that. That's a whole different ballgame. But for you, I'm packing it so that you don't have to write this stuff down. So I have the materials divided into two kinds. There's lectures like this one, and those are designed to explain the what and the why. So what are we doing? Why are we doing this? What are the terms you need to know? How does this stuff fit together? And then separately, how do I make a program do this for me? So I have examples that have pieces of computer code and output and a whole lot of annotation because I pack my examples really full of words too, so that you can see how this stuff would look in software. And I know this is going to be probably the biggest source of anxiety. I am going to ask that you pledge allegiance to one of the three programs that we're featuring in the class: SAS, Stata, or R. More is coming about why I chose those programs and what their pros and cons are in just a few slides. This unit right here that I'm talking in, Unit 1, this next lecture that we probably will start Thursday, if not today, this one doesn't have an example document because instead I'm going to make videos. So I am going to walk you through what it looks like to open SAS for the very first time, what it looks like to open Stata for the very first time, and R, so that you can see for yourself how you actually make this stuff go. And because we're going to be using the university's virtual desktop, there's a few extra steps that you have to go through to get connected to that interface that can be non-trivial. So I have a handout that I've posted, and I'm going to be making videos on how to do all of that for this unit instead of a handout. That way you'll be able to follow along with me. And everything of the up above here is on the course website that I just showed you. The only thing that I keep in icon in terms of the course materials are the readings, because I don't want to violate copyright law by posting people's PDFs online. So those are behind a lock on icon, but otherwise everything else is up. And in terms of benefits, I do want to point out that the benefits to you for learning how to do quantitative methods are not just about you being better at your own research, which is the primary reason that I think you should be here, but it's also about more opportunities for collaboration. If you look through my CV, I would say at least half of the papers are me being second or third author because I analyzed the data and I wrote the results section. And those are the kind of papers that, especially when you're in graduate school, take relatively less work than doing a full study all by yourself and can help you build your CV. So the experiences that I had really helped me along the way because I knew quantitative methods and I could help other people with their research. And also benefits in terms of actual money. Doing quant methods for other people is a legit side hustle. I made money on the side as an undergrad, as a grad student, as a postdoc, and I paid off my student loans by teaching workshops once I became a faculty member. So there are actual tangible benefits to getting through this stuff and learning how to do it. Have I sold you yet? I'm trying hard. It's a heavy pitch. A little bit? Fair. I'm going for, it sucked way less than I thought it was going to. That's where I'm going. I'm realistic. So what am I going to do to help you on this journey? I'm not going to present statistics in silos. That's one of the biggest criticisms that I have of a lot of intro stat books and courses is it's like, well, here's this thing, and here's that thing, and here's this thing, and here's that thing. It's all related. And it's easier to learn if you see the relationships because then there's one structure that you're attaching things to instead of a bunch of different ones. I'm also not giving you tests. I don't believe in tests philosophically. At this level, I just don't believe they're effective. Never in your life Are you going to have to know something right now or else? So we don't do anything high stakes and timed. You're going to be doing things at your own pace, on your own time, out of class. And I'm also not going to make you calculate things by hand. There may be one or two numbers that you have to like subtract two numbers to get something at that level, but predominantly we're going to make the computers do the work for us. So what I am going to do is try to link things together for you as much as possible. And I want you to help me in that regard. So if you're learning about something in another class, or you have a research project, and you think to yourself, is she talking about this thing that I do otherwise? Please bring it up. If you have an example from your own life that you think is relevant, absolutely bring it up. Those are my favorite kinds of questions, because then I have more examples to give that I didn't have to build. And then it's more relevant to you too. So what the work will be in this course, if you're not going to have tests, there's two different things I'm going to ask you to do. One is what I call a formative assessment, what is known more simply as a quiz. Those are going to be administered through Icon, and they are graded on effort. So those I'll talk about in just a second, but you get your points if you do it. That's it. The other thing you're going to be doing is homework, but I guarantee it's not homework that you're used to, because I have a custom online system that I've built to administer the homework and to do the grading. I have a demo that I will do of that probably within the next week or so. I'll post the video for that. I'm waiting to see if we get any late adds or drops before I finalize the roster for this class. So in terms of your coursework, everything is take home, everything is open note, and everything is untimed. No pressure. I do accept late work. However, I know that things with hard due dates get done and things with soft due dates get pushed. And I want to be in the done category. So as a gentle incentive to have you keep up with the course, every late homework that you submit will be subtracted 1 point out of however many, somewhere between 12 and 18. So it's out of 100. And every late formative assessment will lose a half a point out of the 2. Fortunately, though, I have a homework 0 that I'm going to give you to practice using my system. It's about the syllabus. It will take you a good 30 seconds to complete. And if you do that, you'll earn 2 extra credit points right off the bat. So I'm basically giving you 2 free late homeworks. But even if you turned in absolutely everything late, the worst that could happen is that you go from an A+ possible to just an A possible. So not too bad. Another caveat here, extensions are granted if you want. So if you are planful, if you look at the syllabus and you're like, oh, that's the week that I'm supposed to be taking comps, or that's the week that I'm supposed to be in my sister's wedding, or whatever, let me know. Send me an email. If it's at least 2 weeks in advance, I'll give you a break. Let me know when you think you can get it done by. I'm not interested in penalizing anybody. I'm just trying to give you incentive to stay up to date. In terms of the due dates that are posted right now, if we get through all of the material that I have planned in the intervals in which I have planned it, the due dates will stand. But what is more likely to happen is that we may get behind. Things may take longer than what I anticipate. And if that happens, I will push back a homework due date accordingly so that you have at least 1 week after we finish talking about something before you're responsible to do it. So the homework due dates may be later, but they will never be pushed earlier than what they currently are. So what are you going to be doing then more specifically? The formative assessment quizzes. These are in Icon. It's going to be 3 or 4 questions. And these are designed to give us an opportunity for a structured review. They're big picture questions. They might be asking about like vocabulary, concepts, stuff that you should be able to come up with off the top of your head or close to it. And if you can't, then that's an indicator that you need to go back and review that particular topic. So those will all be due on Monday night. Your first one is already available. What I would recommend is after class on Thursday. So sometime between after class Thursday and Monday, take the time to fill it out. So after we've gone through the material for the week, shouldn't take very long. And that way I can read over the answers Tuesday morning. So I teach another class before this one. It starts at 12:30 to 1:45. This class starts at 2. I'll spend Tuesday morning reading over your answers. And that is my chance to check in with you to see if there's any common misconceptions, if people are having the same kinds of problems over and over again. So we'll go over what I think the answers should be and talk about, what you wrote down and whether or not that's correct. There's not going to be an answer key per se. It's just really more of a conversation, and I can check in with you to see how you understand things, and you can have a chance to ask me questions. So if your answer to one of my questions is, yeah, Lisa, I have no idea what you're even asking about, write that down. That is instructive to me, because that means I did not emphasize it enough, or I'm not using the right language to convey what I mean. In terms of homework, what you're going to be doing is data analysis. So I'm going to give you a story and a set of research questions, general and specific, and I use each of your university 8-digit IDs as a random seed to simulate individual specific data sets. So you all have the same setup, but all of your data looks a little bit different. And so each of you will have your own set of correct answers to these homeworks. All of the homework assignments are going to use the examples that I give you directly. I will show you how to do everything I'm going to ask you to do. So you do not have to ask the Google how to do any of this. And please don't, because the Google does not necessarily know everything. And it's easy to get down the rabbit hole of advice. So no Googling required. Everything I want you to do, I'm going to give you an example of. The two types of questions that you're going to complete on the homework. One is computational, so numeric answers. So I might ask you, for instance, on your first homework, what is the mean of this variable? Okay, ask a program to spit out the mean, you enter the number. If you get it right, the number turns green. You get it wrong, the box around it turns red. Immediate feedback. Okay, try again. Maybe I specified the wrong variable. Okay, change that, try again. You keep trying as long as it takes until that number turns green. I do not know, care, or keep track of how many tries you need. So you'll know immediately that you are on the right track or not. The other type of question, once you have all of the numbers, then comes the hard part, which is the interpretation. What are they telling you? So the way that I will get you practice with interpretation is by completing paragraphs that have words missing, and where the missing words are going to be a drop-down menu. So I might ask you, for instance, is this a positive relationship or a negative relationship? And you'd have to select the right word that describes what you found with your data. Because those questions are multiple choice, they're not graded immediately for feedback. You will get feedback after you submit your work for a grade and after the due date passes. So I will show you what this looks like in a video so that you can see for yourself. Again, homework 0, your first one, is about the syllabus, and it's just designed to give you practice with the system. So the results sections for the interpretations are designed not just to give you practice, but also to give you examples to follow. Because writing up the results of quantitative analyses, at least for the models that we're going to talk about, really is algorithmic. I can have the computer generate a results section. So you'll have practice building these little paragraphs that describe what the numbers mean that you can then use in your own research. Oh, here's an example of how I would write up this type of analysis. That's my goal. Okay, how are we doing? Okay, sucking less yet? Okay, good. Any questions or comments about anything that I've said so far? No, you're with me? Cheers. It will not offend me if you eat lunch or snack or tea or whatever you're doing while we're here. Like I said, you can be on the treadmill. I have been known to give myself manicures during faculty meetings on Zoom. Yeah, I'm rocking kind of a purple sparkle right now because inside me is like the taste of a 12-year-old girl. You know, you got to keep it fun. All right, so my job when I'm not doing my nails, besides providing all of this material, is to answer your questions. So I prefer questions in class. That way everybody can hear the question and its answer, but ask me questions whenever you want to. In terms of office hours, so the way that I hold my office hours is in a group format. So what that means is that you can pop in anytime. It's 3:30 to 4:30 Tuesdays and Thursdays is what I have it set currently. And you can ask your question. And what people have done historically is log in because they want to work on their homework. And they just sit in the background and work on it until they have a question. And then they put their name in the chat window and I call on them and I answer their question and then they get it moving again and they go back to work on their homework. So I have it in this format so that I can help as many people as possible at the same time without having to make individual appointments. So if you're comfortable with that and you want to come hang out with us and work on your homework, aces. If you would rather talk to me privately, please email me for an individual appointment and we can do that too. Office hours and individual appointments, though, are only going to be on Zoom because I'm still very squishy about being in my office space and being close to people in this COVID environment. I have a 6-year-old who is currently at school, and he has all the COVID exposure that I need in my life right now. You may hear him stomping above me here once he gets home in a little while. So your job, in terms of what is most important in terms of making time for, ask the questions. So asking questions, I know, can be somewhat anxiety provoking because you don't want to look stupid in front of your friends or your other classmates, right? But I can tell you there are no stupid questions because I see people's faces when someone asks a question and one of two things happens. Either you ask a question and someone else goes, oh, oh, thank God they asked that. I've been wondering that and I didn't want to say anything. So you're helping someone out. Or I get this. Someone asks a question, see a smile because that person knew the answer and you just made their day. Oh, I knew that one. I must be actually getting this. And now you gave them a boost of self-confidence. So asking questions is really important because if you get lost 5 minutes into a lecture, the rest of it's not going to make sense. So stop me. Ask the questions. If you're shy, that is what the direct messaging is for in the chat window. So you can type your question to the entire class or you can type it just to me. And when we are in person, you can log into Zoom just for typing direct messages to me if you want to. I have found in Zoom teaching that I get way more questions that way because people don't have to out themselves as not knowing something. So questions are always appreciated. Frequently reviewing things, meeting twice a week is going to help that. Spending time outside of class is also useful, and not being afraid to ask for help. When I was going through these types of classes in undergrad, I had an advisor. It was the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. His name was Cal Garvin. He was the first person to teach me all of the things that I know, and I have adopted a lot of his mannerisms, like the "how we doing?" That's from him. I took that from him. But he had a rule that he told us, do not work on the same thing for more than 15 minutes. That is the maximum amount of period you should try something and fail at it. Stop. If you get stuck, stop and send me an email. And if you take a screenshot, so a lot of the problems that people have to do with typing the right codes to get the answers and having the program return an error message instead of output. If you are in that position, send me a screenshot of what you typed and what the error message says. And even if I'm sitting on my phone, half watching TV, half playing on my phone, I can type, oh, yeah, you're missing a semicolon on line 57 and get back to you very quickly. Because if there's a mistake to be made in terms of program syntax, I have made it before. So I am relatively quick at troubleshooting these kinds of things if you can let me help you. And it's much less frustrating. And on that note, if you do eventually figure it out, send me another email saying, I got it, never mind, and then I won't answer you. Oh, sorry. 2 more bullets, the textbook. So I have recommended a textbook because I wanted you to have something that was more complete than just a set of lecture notes. I like this book. This is a new book that I just adopted based on someone else's recommendation. I like it because it's really comprehensive. There's a lot of discussion about sort of broader picture topics. It also has SPSS code, Stata code, and SAS code for doing its own set of examples. And so if you go through the textbook, that'll be another set of examples besides mine that you can learn from. It's recommended, though, in the sense that if you don't buy the book and you don't read it, you'll still be able to do all of the work in this course. It's just really more for your future reference, for your greater understanding. And then last but not least, practice. If you really want to learn this stuff, do it with your own research data. There is nothing I can give you that will mimic how much better you will learn something when you actually have to do it on data you care about. So that would be the number one thing to help you really cement this stuff in your head. More about your experience. You don't have to be here. Attendance is not required, and I'm not going to keep track of it. I subscribe to the philosophy that you are all motivated grown-ups who are in charge of your own time, and I want you to be here. Don't get me wrong, but I understand that things happen. So if you're not able to make all of the classes, that's okay. That's why I record the classes. That way you're not going to miss anything. This semester especially, I know that attendance can be dicey because things happen that are out of your control. That being said, if you want to come in person, and I hope to be back in person on Thursday, we'll confirm later with an email. I strongly encourage masks. I am not allowed to require masks, but I really very much strongly encourage them so that we can all be together. If you prefer to attend on Zoom for any reason, either the whole semester or just one day, that's totally fine with me. You don't need my permission. If you're going to miss class, you don't need to tell me. Now, that being said, if you ghost me, like if I don't see you for 3 weeks and you don't turn your work in, that might be a problem, and you should check in if something's going on that I should know about. But just, absences here and there, it's fine. And also, if you are going to come in person, please, 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 please do not come if you think you might be sick. Please. Please. I cannot require anything, but I can beg. The guidelines don't say that anything against begging, so I'm begging. And if you're thinking, but I'll miss something, you won't. Okay? Everything is recorded. You're not going to miss anything. You do not have to choose between being healthy and safe and being successful in this course. So each of these recordings is going to be posted on the day it was recorded on the class website. You'll see exactly what we covered. Occasionally I mess up and forget to hit record, or if I have technical difficulties, what I have done in those cases is redo the lecture myself. So you will always have some kind of representation of what we went over in class. And you can ask questions any way you want to. In terms of last minute changes, I can't promise there won't be any. As planful as I want to be, shit happens. It's a charming American expression. That means the unexpected may occur. Is there any other equivalent expressions that you're familiar with in other countries or languages? Or shit happens pretty universal? Universal? Yes. Shit happens. If shit should happen, I will eject without hesitation into a Zoom environment. I'm not going to cancel class unless I'm truly, really incapable of providing it, but I will not hesitate to eject to Zoom if I'm exposed to COVID again, if we have dangerous weather. So if public schools are closed, that is to me a pretty good barometer that things are not safe to drive in or too cold to stand and wait for the bus or things like that. Nothing is more important than our health and safety, and we do not have to compromise on this class. We will do it on Zoom and get through it if the situation calls for it. So check your email on class days just to make sure that nothing has occurred unplanned. All right. I'm getting thirsty, which means that I need to shut up for a minute and ask for questions. Any questions for me? It's like yawning. When I take a drink, I saw like 4 of you do the same thing. It's contagious. Yeah, I'm double-fisted. That's the only way I can get through my afternoons here. All right. So about the software. So I know that that is a source of concern for many of you I heard about on our survey. I am asking that you pledge allegiance to one of three programs, either SAS, Stata, or R. And I actually had to look up what they stood for because I didn't know off the top of my head, but this is what they stand for. By the way, everywhere else in the world, you will see Stata written like this with a capital S and then lowercase letters. I write it with capital letters for two reasons. One is for symmetry with the other programs, and two is because Stata commands are all in lowercase and they won't let me use capital letters, and it pisses me off. So this is my way of sticking it to the man. You won't let me use capital letters, Stata? Guess what? I just did. So when I write out Stata, I write it this way, just because I can. And R. R is a very polarizing experience. It is a free implementation of an older language that used to be called S. And it's just R by itself. A single letter is referring to the entire program. First question I almost always get is, why not SPSS? SPSS is fine for a lot of things. So the analogy that I like to give is, like, if you're moving into a new apartment and you want to hang up a picture, you need a hammer. You can go down to Walmart and get a hammer. You can go to Target. You might even be able to go to Hy-Vee, right? There's a hardware section at most stores where you can get basic things that you need. That's like SPSS. You need to know what a mean is of a variable. You need to see some correlations. Fine. SPSS is totally fine for that, and I'm not going to tell you it's not. However, in terms of room to grow, if SPSS is like the hardware aisle at Walmart, then SAS, Stata, and R are like Home Depot. They just have more stuff. So if you're putting together a piece of furniture and you need an extra screw that has like a star in the middle of it, like it's not a Phillips or a straight, like it's some screwy screw that you don't even know what it's called, you take the screwy screw and you show it to somebody at Home Depot and you say, I need this. And they're like, yeah, that's aisle 47, halfway down, third rack from the bottom, right? There's just more stuff. So we don't teach SPSS in the advanced courses, in part because we can't for some of the models. So if you're going to eventually have to learn a new software package, now is the time. So I don't endorse SPSS because I'm already doing 3 other packages too. Question from the audience: do people in specific fields tend to choose a particular software? Should we choose one that most researchers use in our field? Yes, thank you for the question. I have a slide on that. I think it might be the next slide. So thank you for the foreshadowing. So I'll put a pin in that for like 30 seconds and then I'll answer it. So SPSS, by the way, is in your textbook. You can do the great majority of the things that I'll cover in this class in SPSS. It might just be you need to do more models to do it, or otherwise like have a workaround in some cases. So personally, I grew up on SPSS, and I'm so old that when I started learning SPSS, it didn't have Windows yet. SPSS once upon a time had nothing but syntax, and then the Windows version of it came out and everybody loved it. So Stata has Windows 2, and SAS has Windows in a different version that I tend not to use. So Windows is not just an SPSS thing. But in order to continue learning advanced models, I had to pick up SAS, and that was in graduate school and as a postdoc. And I love SAS. It's my jam, right? I can do everything I need to in SAS in most cases, and that's what I prefer. I picked up enough Stata to be able to teach it in workshops that I was giving, and since then I've added it to my classes, in part because people in certain fields love Stata, and I am begrudgingly learning R. So I'm not going to lie to you, I hate it. I live with someone who loves R and keeps telling me that if I just hang in there, I'm going to like it. No, I haven't hit that point yet. I hate it. But because R is taking over the world, I have decided I need to become conversant in it. And to become conversant, it means to teach in it. So that's, I'm working on it. So that being said, if any of you are better at Stata or R or even SAS than me, and you see me doing something that's either clunky or you know a better way to do it, please tell me. You will not offend me whatsoever, especially when it comes to R. I am a novice and I am looking to learn. So in terms of which program, all of these programs are available for free. through the university virtual desktop. You do not need to spend money on any of them. For those of you who are, if anyone is from a quant major, like you're pursuing a PhD or an MA in EMS, I would say that the more programs to learn, the better. So if you have the time and energy to go past just one, that will benefit you. Each of you on your CV should begin building what's known as like a technical skills section, where you list all of the programs and skills that you've learned, and more listings on there is better. You can also collaborate with more different kinds of people if you know more packages, because people tend to align themselves with one or two packages. Now, which should you choose? The question that was asked, okay, it was more than 30 seconds ago, but I swear I'm coming back to it. So, one thing to think about is, what are you going to use when you're out of here? So if you're not sure if you will be employed by a university or any other type of organization that has software access, by and large, the predominant reason people use R is because it's free. You can get R online and install it on your computer, regardless of whether you use Windows or a Mac or Linux or whatever you have. R works on all different platforms, and you don't have to go in through the Iowa system or any specific system. You can use it on your own machine. That is why people like it. Also, in terms of free, that is outside the Iowa interface, SAS has a web-based platform called SAS On Demand that is free if you have an academic email address. So I have not played with that very much, but from what I have seen, it has all the same capabilities. So that is also an option. You could learn SAS now and keep using it down the road through that platform. Stata, on the other hand, to the best of my knowledge, there are no free versions. You have to pay money if you want to have a Stata installation outside of a university setting. So that might be one reason not to pick it. Are any of these programs not compatible with specific laptops or versions? With respect to the virtual desktop, no. The virtual desktop is a Windows setup, but you can connect to it if you have a Mac or Windows or whatever. If you were to install SAS on your machine, so like if you purchased a license through the university, like I have SAS on my computer, you cannot install SAS on a Mac. So that was one impediment to using it, but the SAS On Demand works regardless of your operating system, and R works on everything. So Stata is not free. So why do people use it? There are certain fields that have pledged allegiance to Stata, and these are the fields that I've taught people in workshops to, because they work with very large survey data sets and they need to apply survey weights. So if you are from any of these fields, Stata may be your best bet. R, on the other hand, is something that you may eventually have to learn if you want to keep taking quantitative methods courses from our department. So besides me, Dr. Ariella Lowe, who teaches design of experiments, Dr. Brandon LeBeau, who teaches a few different courses using R, and my better half, Dr. Templin, all of his courses are going to be using R. So the three of them only use R. So if you're planning to take further courses, it may be good to learn R for that reason, besides the fact that R is free. However, one thing to keep in mind that I want to draw your attention to is that there's another charming expression besides shit happens, that you get what you pay for. You know that expression? It means free is free, but that may be for a reason. So R runs, there's base R, which is sort of comes with the thing, but then predominantly people use R by installing packages. So packages are specific routines that are designed to do a specific thing that are written by people. Meaning there's not like a team of programmers who are computer scientists who write these things and test them the way that they have in SAS and Stata. R is written by people. So it's both good and bad. But if you're going to use someone's package, you have to trust that they know what they're doing. And that's fine most of the time for, I would say, simpler or less complex analyses. But when you get up into sort of the heavier, newer, more complicated stuff, sometimes that can backfire. The other thing that's tricky about R is because each individual writes their own packages, there's no requirement that the language they use is standardized. So it can be frustratingly idiosyncratic when the same type of command does not work the same way across packages. And that's where most of my frustration comes in. Okay, so folks who are asking questions about software, did I sufficiently answer your questions? Okay, any new questions? Okay, getting quiet. Here's a table that gives me my opinion on various tasks for SAS versus Stata, just as for your record. I don't have an opinion yet on most of these things in R because I'm still working my way through the different packages. In terms of the syntax, each of these programs has syntax, meaning the words you type to make it go. That's called syntax in this context. They look different and they're structured differently. So one thing to keep in mind is that when you're typing commands to make the computers do your bidding, do the math for you, SAS is not case sensitive, but Stata and R are. So case sensitive means that if you name a variable with a capital letter and then small letters, you got to type it that way every single time or it's wrong. Thus the basis of me being frustrated with Stata for not allowing capital letters, because when I make examples, my preferred structure is to use capital letters for program recognized commands, and then for user options that you would need to change, like names of variables, I do those in lowercase or title case. So I can't use that system with R or Stata. So SAS is less picky about the input that you use in terms of capitalization. SAS is also very regularized in its language. So there's basically two kinds of commands that you'll learn. If you want to do something to a data set, make a new variable, rearrange your variables, select cases, that kind of stuff, that's all in what's known as a data step. It's a particular combination of 3 commands that you need to wrap around what you want to do. Everything else is a proc. Can you guess what proc stands for? No, procedure. Yep, but everything is a proc. So if you've used one proc and you look up another one, that proc is structured the same way the first proc is. So it makes it a lot easier to learn different routines because they all have the same underlying structure. When you type code in SAS, you would use a semicolon as a line terminator, meaning how the program understands that you're done adding information for a particular option. So missing semicolons are frequently a problem in troubleshooting SAS code. Odds are good you're missing a semicolon somewhere if you get an error message. On the other hand, Stata syntax is different. It's also very regularized, meaning that all of the commands are structured in the same way, but with way fewer words. So it's a lot less typing, but it also is a lot less transparent of what you're asking it to do. And in Stata, the end of the line that you're typing in is the line terminator. So once you're done typing, it knows that you're done and it goes. If you want to wrap your code around multiple lines, you have to add this command here, this / to keep going. So you'll see this in my examples. Anytime that it takes me more than one line to do something, I have to tell it, no, keep reading, I'm not done yet. No, keep reading, I'm not done yet. In R, if you've never seen a programming language before, it's just going to look crazy. So do we have any coders here? Anybody proud? No? C++, HTML, Python? No? A little bit? Okay, well, if there were, I would say, yeah, R is just calls to functions. And they go, oh, got it. But for the rest of us, it's like, what? So everything in R has a set of parentheses because everything is a function. So all of your code is going to have parentheses wrapped around it, and the interior of the parentheses are options based on what you want to do separated by commas. So it looks different than the other programs. And R is going to be much easier to work with inside RStudio, which is also free. So I have this said in various places, but if you want to learn how to do R on your own machine, go download R first and then go download RStudio. it provides a Windows-looking interface that makes it a lot easier to work with. Base R without it is just like a DOS window. It's horrible. Links to all of this stuff are on the syllabus, by the way. So each of these languages looks different. I wanted to give you a colloquial example to what I think this looks like. So let's say that you go out to dinner. Remember that when we used to go out to dinner and just, it was fine? And someone asks you, how was your meal? And you'd like to say, it was fine, not too spicy, which to me is a good thing, by the way. I cannot have spicy food. It literally hurts my face to have anything that's remotely spicy. So not spicy means I had a good dinner. Let's say that you want to tell someone that. This is my way of illustrating what the syntax looks like with that basic idea. So the text that follows here, anything in green, is what's known as a comment, meaning it's a note to yourself that the program ignores. That way you can make notes about what's happening and what things do. So SAS would look like this. So proc answer. The thing you want to do is the word after the proc. I'm making this up, by the way. There is no proc answer. There might be, but it's not about dinner. Let's put it that way. What do I want to answer about? Data equals dinner. Work equals work.dinner. All file names refer to a place and a name, as we'll talk about later. So right off the bat, SAS makes you tell it which data set you want to do something to as part of your instructions, because SAS has multiple data sets possible to be open at the same time. So you got to clarify. Then what are we trying to do? Well, I'd like to provide a response that it was fine. And I'd like to add the option as a further comment that it wasn't spicy. So options are denoted after the slash in SAS, and they're like yes or no things. So spicy equals no. And if it's a SAS recognized command, it will be blue. After you're finished telling it what you want, you must type run and a semicolon. So note there's a semicolon at the end of this line, at the end of this line, and at the end of this line, and at the end of all the comments. Semicolons at the end of everything. So run makes it go. If you forget run, it'll just sit there and look at you. And it won't have an error, it'll just sit there. So run is the analog to execute in SPSS syntax. Run is the analog to please. So for instance, if my son says, Mommy, can I have a glass of water? I'll just sit there and look at him. Mommy, I want some water. I'll sit there and look at him. Oh, I can't hear you right now. Then he knows to say, Mommy, can I have some water, please? Oh, now I heard you. Yes, of course, sweetheart, you can have some water. So the run is like, please. Like you have to say please to make it go. Otherwise, it's not going to hear you. Stata don't care. Stata would look like this. It's a very impoverished syntax. Keyword for what you want to do turns blue. Variables you want to do it to, options for that come after a comma instead of a slash. So it's a lot fewer words, but you're not really clear from just looking at it what's happening. And Stata goes. You don't have to say please to Stata. R would look like this. So you would save an object that is what you want to do as my answer. And then the function that you're calling, the package, would be something like answer with a capital R, because people are cute when they make their packages. And every time there's an R in a package, it gets capitalized, it seems like. And then inside the function, you tell it what you want to do with the function. So function meaning the thing that's outside the parentheses. So what data set are you doing this to? The dinner data set. That's what I want to talk about, because in R, you have multiple data sets open at the same time too. Note in the Stata code, there's no reference to which data set it is because there's only one open at the same time. And then we have formula tilde response equals fine, comma, spicy equals false, because we couldn't just type no. It has to be either true or false in our language. And then if you just have this first line, it'll sit there and look at you. It won't go, it won't do anything. If you want to actually see your answers, you got to ask for that separately. So then you ask for summary of what you just did. So you don't technically have to do this save and then print, but most of the examples you'll see will look like this, which is why I'm introducing it now. So these three languages look very different from each other in my estimation, even though you can do a lot of the same things across packages. All right, how we doing? Now remember what I said, no Googling. I'm going to show you how to do all of this via examples, and your job is to take the examples and modify them. So I am going to demonstrate how to get to the virtual desktop, how to get started with each of these packages, how you make the code go, where you type the code in, where the numbers come back, all of that stuff. I'm going to show you. And I do not need you to learn the syntax. You do not need to memorize any of this. Instead, I want you to learn how to do what I literally still do every time I do an analysis. Find an example of something that looks like what you need to do, copy it, paste it, change it, and go. That's what I'm going to want you to do. So find and replace is going to be your new best friend. Control H or Command H. Like if I have an example data set that's called example 1, and you need to use a data set called homework 1, find and replace. And everywhere it refers to that data set, it gets changed. That's what I want you to learn to do, and it's not cheating. Don't worry, it's still legit. Colors will help you, especially in SAS. I will help you, and it gets better with practice. So I know several folks have expressed anxiety about using the packages. I am going to try to lessen that anxiety to the greatest extent possible. All right, questions on software?
Just a quick question, Lisa.
Mm-hmm.
When you do give the example, since we have different software, will the example be in all software or just one specific software?
The example will be in all of them.
Okay.
So what I will do is I have it'll be like a Word document that has syntax and output and a bunch of words annotating everything. And what I will typically do is show what the syntax would look like in all three programs, and then one set of output, because all of the output looks pretty similar. However, along with that Word document, I will give you electronic files that created the Word document. So you will get a syntax and a complete output in each of the three programs that you can refer to. So if you don't want to do anything with the other programs, just the one that you picked, you can just work with that version. So you don't have to, it won't be piecemeal across. I'm going to do everything 3 times. Which kind of sucks, not going to lie, but if I were to pick one package, I would not make everyone happy.
I was going to say, thank you for your dedication.
Thank you for thanking me. Yeah, I would pick SAS, and then there would be mutiny. And so then I'd pick R, and then I would get angry. So what actually happens is that I do things in SAS, and then I used the SAS output to verify that I set up stata and R correctly. That is what happens in practice. So I've got converging evidence across the packages. All right, yeah. One more thing, one more slide, and then we'll adjourn for the day, okay? I know it's 3:11. I keep my my clock where I can see it so that I don't accidentally overrun. What you're supposed to know already. So the technical prerequisite here is a class PSQF 4143, which is an introductory stats class. I do not know or care if you've had that class before. What I want you to have seen before are these things, these concepts. So descriptive statistics, how would you describe a variable all by itself, like in a method section? Bivariate association, things like a correlation. The idea of a hypothesis test. So whether or not something is different than 0, how you talk about p-values and significance, that kind of thing. And I ideally would like you to have done all of this in some kind of software before, like SPSS is fine, or Jamovi, or I know there's a bunch of new ones. I haven't played with all of them. But these are the ideas that I want you to have. I am going to review all of these things in the first 2 units. So unit 1 is about descriptive statistics, and then these other things are going to show up in unit 2. If you want more detailed background on these things that I'm assuming that you've seen already, I have material from another course. So I used to teach a course called PSQF 6242, which is one number off from this one, that started at an earlier place than this course starts. So go to that course and check out the first 5 weeks of materials. There was videos there. If you feel like you need more background than what, like basically what I'm assuming here. Most of this class is going to focus on general linear models. That's what we're going to do this semester with most of our time. So this course has been redesigned relative to what it used to be a few years ago. This is the second instantiation of the new version of the course. The last was last fall. And then we will find out what that is on Thursday. So any questions about prerequisites, preparation, software, any of that? No. How are we feeling as a whole? We can do thumbs up, we can do thumbs sideways, which is like so-so, and then thumbs down. Mostly ups, thumbs up. Okay. Well, that is, of course, the correct answer. But I legit hope that you do really feel like this is going to be okay, because it is. We're all in this together. All right. Then one last question. Oh, two last questions. Oh, readings. Thank you. I forgot to say that. The readings go with the unit. I don't expect you to have everything read on that day. And I actually think it will go better if you let me tell you what it's about first and then do the reading second. So they just go with it. They're not like on that day. Like unit 2 will take us 3 weeks. Those are the readings for like the next 3 weeks. Any specific rec for psychology? R or Stata? R or SAS, excuse me. R or SAS if you're talking about software. Psychology, I think, offers some of the other methods classes in R already. So R would be where I would recommend. R for psychology, Stata as a second choice. How about music education? Oh, beats me. I don't know. Ask your advisor. That would be my question. If you don't know which package you should pick up, ask your advisor. They will tell you if they have an opinion. Okay, I think I'm caught up on the questions, and it's 3:15. So office hours start right after this if you want to hang out and talk to me. Otherwise, I hope to see everybody Thursday. So goodbye for now. Thank you for coming. Stay safe, stay sane. Peace out.
Thank you. Thank you.